Esteemed Prager University is at it again. This time they brought in Dave Rubin to do a video titled Leftists Don't Value Tolerance. And some of you hearing this might already be rolling your eyes, knowing exactly what the this is. Yet another video of a tired old trope known as the tolerance paradox. And for those of you out there who don't know what the tolerance paradox is, it's basically when some right-wing nutjob tries to make the case that we on the left are the real intolerant ones. And why? Because our tolerance doesn't extend to intolerance itself. That's why. It's a really up argument, but no matter how many times it is debunked, it keeps coming back up again like a game of whack-a-mole.
America itself was built on a foundation of tolerance. The Declaration of Independence guarantees us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But there's an implicit contract there. To have your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness, you have to be tolerant of somebody else's life, their liberty, and their pursuit of happiness.
Absolutely. You must be tolerant of other people's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But here's the up part. The cases where you are accusing the left of not extending that tolerance, what is actually going on is that the left is doing nothing more than demanding that the right live up to its part of this very same implicit contract that you're going on about.
If you listen to the mainstream media, only one side is living up to this deal, the left. The right, according to the media, is intolerant of everyone, except those darned white heterosexual Christian males. There's only one problem. It's just not true.
Or is it? Let's review the claims with regard to this supposed intolerant left.
Incredibly, the left isn't even tolerant of the very people they say they're tolerant of. If you're gay or black or an immigrant and you're not in lockstep with current leftist orthodoxy, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
No. As a transgender woman who disagrees with large swaths of the left about Israel, I have no clue what you're talking about. I say large swaths of the left because, unlike what you clearly think, the left isn't a monolith. Don't get me wrong, I also strongly disagree with the right about Israel, possibly even more so than I disagree with any significant portion of the left, but I do disagree with significant swaths of the left, and I strongly suspect that that includes those that you base your straw man caricature of the left on. But do you think that I got exiled from the left over that? Well, if you do think that, then you're wrong. Of course, I did have a fallout with some people over this, but by and large, the left accepts me just fine. And yes, there was that incident in the Chicago Dyke March some years back when the Jewish LGBT group got kicked out for using the Star of David in the march. But that's not representative of the entire left. Most of the left joined me in condemning the Dyke March for that action. One person, as a matter of fact, recently told me that she would not do anything that she considered to be shouting down a black person who says something about race, even if they say something that seems like blatant anti-black racism. Does this come as a surprise to the right that so many on the left take this attitude? Well, I can't read minds, but at least in the case of the organizers of the right-wing propaganda machine, I'd be really surprised if they don't know this, for the simple reason that they employ strategies that use this to their advantage. I mean, seriously, why do you think they recruited Candace Owens? Simple. They have their stupid propaganda that they want to sell to completely on the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as on everyone who calls out the way that African Americans clearly, by whatever mechanism, suffer from some kind of discrimination in housing, in education, in criminal justice, etc. But they know that if they say these things themselves, they'll get called out as the racist bullshitters that they are. So they find a black person who can be persuaded to spew that for them. And there's enough black people in this country that it's a simple numbers game. They will find a black person to peddle their anti-black racism. I mean, anti-Semites on both the left and the right have been pulling this on Jews for decades now at least, and our numbers are much fewer than those of African Americans. If one can find Jews to spew anti-Jewish bullshit, one can find black people to spew anti-black bullshit. But they wouldn't bother to do it if they didn't know darn tootin' well that if they get a black person to spew their bullshit, they will shut up many people who would happily and easily call them out if they spewed it themselves.
If you believe we should judge people on the content of their character and not the color of their skin, the left calls you racist.
No. The left does not call you racist for that. They're calling you a racist because you're refusing to take a look at yourself and realize how you are contributing to a system that does not treat people equally regardless of their skin color. It may even be that you are gaslighting the evidence of that systemic racism because of something stupid like the fact that one has to be aware of what race someone is in order to take note of the fact that a black person is far more likely to be murdered by a cop than a white person is.
If you believe that America is a nation of immigrants, but that our country should also protect its borders, the left calls you a xenophobe.
And just for those who are listening to this video rather than watching it, those words were accompanied by a crude animation representing the building of Trump's wall along the US-Mexican border. They're insinuating that supporting that travesty against the environment, against indigenous land, and so forth is somehow the mark of someone who believes in protecting the United States. And being called out for that stupidity, of course, they want you to think is some kind of persecution. That's really a theme of theirs. If you so much as call out the stupidity that these people are trying to push all the time, let alone stop them from getting their way, that supposedly makes you the intolerant one. Let's scroll on.
If you believe that men and women are equal but fundamentally different, the left calls you sexist.
Again, believing that men and women are inherently different isn't what's going to get you on the left list. What will cause the left to get pissed at you is when you try to force people into a mold that they aren't comfortable in, or which prevents them from fully realizing their full potential just because what they want to do with their own life doesn't fit what they supposedly should be doing according to your arbitrary, separate, but equal ideas about the sexes.
Here's the thing, those who only tolerate people they agree with or like aren't actually tolerant.
True, but the notion that we on the left aren't tolerant to those we disagree with or don't want to get in bed with is total bull. There is something that we on the left are intolerant of, though, but that is just intolerance itself, And no, being intolerant of intolerance itself does not make us intolerant people. You see, if I don't like you, that's fine. I don't have to like everyone, and not everyone has to like me. You have a different opinion than me about something? That's your right. But the minute that opinion of yours is that I don't have right to exist or to live in a manner consistent with who I know deep down I am, or something else that prevents me from living my life to its fullest, and you try to get policies enacted to force that opinion of yours on my life, and you have the nerve to tell me.
Sorry, Doc. It's not personal, you know.
My response is going to be,
Kid yourself, Jelly. It doesn't get more personal than this.
because when you take away people's right to live their lives in a fulfilling manner because of some stupid ideas you won't grow out of, you don't get to tell them that they are being the intolerant ones if they aren't okay with that. By the way, for anyone who doesn't know, that little movie clipping I just used is from Analyze This, a 1999 film starring Billy Crystal and Robert De Niro. If you haven't seen it yet, you really should. De Niro plays a mafia boss who strong-arms a psychiatrist, played by Billy Crystal, into giving him therapy. The not personal line is delivered here by Joe Vitrelli, who plays De Niro's mafia henchman. It's a great movie. You should freaking see it.
So who is tolerant?
Most definitely not those people on the right who would push for laws that impose their religion's teachings on who someone may or may not marry onto someone else by making it illegal for them to marry someone whom that religion teaches they shouldn't. I would also say most definitely not those who would turn a blind eye while an already marginalized minority receives more than its fair share of police brutality.
Or is it Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters who scolded Kanye West for talking out of turn when he dared suggest that blacks should think for themselves?
Here I wasn't really sure exactly what the Dave Rubin was talking about, so I did some Googling. What I found was this article in The Hill. In it, it mentioned Congresswoman Waters not scolding Kanye West, but praising his creative endeavors and their contribution to the African American community. Yes, it also mentioned that she suggested that he might need to give more thought to the ramifications of some of his political positions. But is that what this guy means by intolerance? I mean, are you kidding me? All she did was offer a disagreement to Kanye West's opinion on some issues, so I'm guessing that's apparently enough for Dave Rubin to brand her as being the intolerant one. Seriously, I thought this response video was going to be about the tolerance paradox, but this bullshit goes way beyond that. He is literally suggesting that just pointing out the fact that there's something problematic about the position of the right is enough to make you the intolerant one. So what now? In order to not be the intolerant one, do I now have to pretend that my issue with the positions of those who want to enact policies that would make my life a living hell is of no more consequence than a disagreement about what toppings to put on a pizza? Well, that. Once again, you are basically saying,
Sorry, Doc. It's not personal, you know.
to which I respond,
Kid yourself, Jelly. It doesn't get more personal than this.
The left, sadly, has become utterly intolerant of anyone with whom they disagree. Why? because they believe that they know how you should live and how you should think.
Really? Because last time I checked, the left wasn't the one trying to enact laws and policies that would tell others who they could or couldn't marry. It wasn't the left trying to force people to live under a certain gender role over the objection of the person who actually has to live under that gender role. It wasn't the left trying to make sure that someone can tell you what you can or can't do with your own body. These are the kinds of things that would be pushed by the kind of person who thinks that they know better than you do how you should live. But newsflash, it isn't the left who pushes for this bull. It's the right every time. It is the left that insists that nobody should have the right to make these decisions for someone else.
I can tell you that in the last few years of my political evolution, I've consistently found conservatives to be tolerant and open-minded. Don't take my word for it, though. Test it out for yourself.
I assure you, I did. Numerous times. It was not liberals who made it unsafe for me to even use the restroom safely because of me being different. It was your darling conservatives, those people that you think are oh so tolerant, but who in reality are the far opposite of it. They have behaved like monster thugs to me in my life, and you have to be a real piece of to do the kind of gaslighting that it is to suggest that those who came to my defense were the intolerant ones. You asshole.
Go talk to some. They do exist, and they do things like watch movies, travel, and eat ethnic food. You know, regular people things.
Oh, so are you now saying that if someone eats a taco once in a while, that somehow proves that they aren't in any way complicit in anti-Hispanic discrimination? Just listen to yourself. And when you start accusing the left of being the intolerant side due to the sheer vigilance with which we oppose the horrific agenda of the right, before you pass judgment on us, take a look at the content of the positions of the right that we on the left are oh so intolerant of. You might find that the reason why we are not okay with those positions is for the simple fact that we have a good reason to not be okay with them. And if you are on the left, then I most desperately beseech you, please, please, please do not fall for this bullshit. And I have to say this because, sad as it is, many people on the left do fall for this. And I ask you to listen to what I am about to say very closely to make sure that you aren't one of those who I am talking about. Way too often, more than I care to count, when I have stated the obvious about what the right is up to, I have been told how we don't want to sink to their level. Sink to their level? What the The fact that they are attacking people's right to exist and or live authentically based on an immutable and benign characteristic, and I am trying to protect people against this encroachment, is enough to put me on a whole different level than them. And if you are pulling your punches out of concern of sinking to their level, you are making yourself a part of the problem. Because when you tolerate intolerance, that does not make you a tolerant person. It makes you complicit in the oppression of those whose lives get seriously up by the policies that the truly intolerant people are always trying to push. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please hit the thumbs up button and leave your comment in the comments area below. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and that the bell icon is active so that you will be more likely to receive notifications when I add new videos in the future. Share this video with your friends and everyone else, both on social media and by whatever other means. And until next time, see ya!